Hello, everybody. We are here with another episode of Reacts. I am Chris Parrish, alongside with the natural Astrid, and we have Cody, who is fresh from a nice little adventure with his cereal. And then we have Ed to my bottom here. And we just, before we get started with the introductions, want to give a shout out to RK Athletics, our beautiful sponsor. And if you want to know, hey, are they on social media? Well, you bet your sweet self they are. RK Athletics 1 right there. You can find them on the Instagram, where you can see Rich King's beautiful physique that he does through the tutorage of his own mind, because he is that good. So make sure you're getting the right tutelage when it comes to the workout and the fitness game, and follow RK Athletics 1. Astrid, how are you doing today?
So far, so good. How about you guys?
I am doing well. Ed, how are you?
I'm doing well. It's been a nice calm week of wrestling this week after the chaos that was last week with the SummerSlam and TakeOver and the UFC fighter coming to wrestling. You know, a whole bunch of stuff happened, so it's nice to get a nice calm week.
And Cody, how are you? How is that bowl of cereal?
Very filling. Very filling cereal in the morning. But I'm more curious now, Ed, which UFC fighter are you referring to? Because there were a few that debuted last weekend.
I'm referring to the one who told me to keep my opinion to myself and to shut the F up. Last night, post-Rampage.
Oh, okay.
He's talking about CM Punk.
For those of you who haven't seen the clip from AEW's YouTube channel, they posted a clip where Punk came out to put the crowd, to send the crowd home happy last night after Kazarian and Christian Cage had their match against Omega and I believe Brendan Cutler. And in that segment, at the very end, Punk's talking about, you know, the fans and everybody being happy and whatnot. And he says, if you love me, go ahead and tweet about it on social media. And if you don't, shut the F up. So that being said, the UFC fighter gets to have me keep my mouth shut.
Well, I was actually so distracted by that Omega Cage tag match last night, I forgot that they had promoted that Punk was going to be at Rampage. So
he was on the show earlier in like this weird, the weird segment where they had two segments up next, and I thought, that's weird. How can you do two segments next? And it was just they were just doing segments back to back. But speaking of Rampage, we should talk about how they opened that show last night, because that was an absolute fantastic match. But I think Parrish has something to say.
Before we do that, we got to show some love to our new follower, Haas00312. Thank you so much for the love and support, and thank you so much for the follow. We greatly appreciate it. And if you want to get interactive with the chat, remember, this is what this React show is all about. We want everyone to kind of get involved, feel like they're a part of the show a little bit too. If you have anything that you want us to talk about with the realms of what happened this week, please feel free to drop it in the comments, because we want your participation. Ed, back to what you're asking.
Yeah, no. So I was going to say, I mean, I'd love to get everybody else's opinion. I thought it was a fantastic tag match between Jungle, the Jurassic Express, and the Lucha Bros. I mean, that thing was, I mean, those two teams are just spectacular.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a fire match. It was one of the best wrestling matches of the week.
Jeremiah apparently disagrees with us.
Apparently. I definitely thought it was one of the best matches on any programming of any show this week, though. I think both those teams absolutely killed it. Both teams very feasibly could have went over and been the ones getting that cage match, and I think that always makes for a great match when you don't know, you can't reasonably project who is getting it and who isn't. And ultimately, it looks like neither team is done with their programs with the Elite yet, since we're moving into that next week with them working together.
Well, speaking of working together, we're also working together with Pedikin, who also is following us. Thank you so much for the follow. We very much appreciate that. Please feel free to drop stuff in the comments. And Ed's dog is, yeah, Ed is dealing with some canine issues. Dog for the latter person. Sorry, that was my Dumb and Dumber thing. But we'll go to Astrid about her opinions on the match, since we'll stay there, and then hopefully by the time you're finished, we can get a little bit more of Ed's side. Hopefully, he lets the dog out.
For the match, I think it was a good choice for the opening match to get the crowd going to begin with and get them hyped up for Rampage. The only part that bothered me, like usual, is just the part when they jump to the outside and you can see like Luchasaurus and like I think it was Marco Stunt, if I'm not mistaken, and Penta were just waiting for the moonsault to happen. So I'm like, that part of them just holding each other in, like, yeah, let's pretend. And then, yeah, I'm like, that part's the only one that kind of distracted me from the match. But aside from that, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. I just want to point out, and Cody, you're right here with me. Though we called this to a T, by the way. We called the main event. We called the Lucha Bros winning to face off. And I really like the fact that they didn't go back to the Jurassic Express because you want them. I think I want them to naturally, no pun intended, Astrid, but to have that organic story of where they have to, take a step back only to come back stronger. And just, I like that organic rise. And just the storytelling, seeing a team kind of go through the tribulations and trials, and kind of that when they do get there, it's very meaningful. And with the Lucha Brothers against the Young Bucks, we've already seen that amazing ladder match that they had. And now I think it's kind of just a staple that you add in a cage match now between the two of them. And, Ed, you're back.
Sorry, the dog decided now would be a good time to just start barking for no reason. So,
well, that's because he's very excited that we are now getting a lot of followers. We're talking about some Rampage, and that just gets every dog riled up. I get it. It's been anything but a rough weekend. And speaking of which, favorite referee in the Alberta scene, Kay Faber. Ref, thank you. Checking in. We appreciate you. And hey, back. But just talking about the opening match at AEW Rampage between the Lucha Brothers and Jurassic Express, I just like the fact that we're going to see more an evolution of the story between the Young Bucks and the Lucha Bros in kind of gimmick matches, even though I don't think you really need to do all that. That's kind of what they are known to do. That's kind of who they are. So it's really, really cool to see the next chapter of that. And maybe this is the right time to crown new tag team champions. I mean, anybody on that one?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't see how you can continue with the Bucks as champions at this point. I think it's time that they drop those titles. It's time that you get one of these two teams elevated to that next level. And then you have teams like Pride and Powerful with Santana and Ortiz. And you have the Revival. And you have all of these fantastic teams that you can put up there against the Lucha Brothers. It's going to be great.
We mentioned, Ed, you just mentioned FTR right there. What did we think of Dax's last video that he came out talking about his partner's arm and how it almost seemed like Santana Ortiz almost took his life, so they have to have that one last match for that. I thought it was a really good promo. It made me more, like, it brought my interest back into that feud, even though there's been a long gap since that match. How are we feeling between this match? Because I like the fact that now we're getting a lot of tag team emphasis in AEW, which it's been criticized lately for its lack of for a long time. So these tag team titles now have elevated in my given, SHIT factor, which I think is really important for AEW moving forward. And to me, hilariously ironic that they're no longer really talking about Impact Championships, and now their titles are beginning to shine. What are your guys' thoughts on just the tag team scene in AEW?
Cody is our resident
Our resident War Report reactor. It's definitely an interesting scene right now. You've got, like Parrish said, you've got the FTR and the Santana and Ortiz out there. You've also got 2.0 really trying to make a name for themselves. You've got Gun Club in kind of the pre-main event slot this week as somebody to keep in mind. You've got, Darby and Sting started teaming together. You've got Eddie and Moxley seem to be spending a lot of time together. You got all of these different places where you've got teams that are doing tag team stuff. It's a really exciting time.
I was going to say, to add to that list, you got Men of the Year. With Ethan Page and Frankie Kazarian. Not Frankie Kazarian, Scorpio Sky.
Yeah.
Yep.
I do think it's funny that we need to point this out because I saw it on Twitter today. It's been 174 days since Scorpio Sky became the face of the Revolution. Talk about drop storylines.
So I'm just going through all the comments here. The tag team scene is great in AEW. Just need to break some of them up and progress the scenes, so to speak. I don't know. I would love to see maybe a Casino Royale tag team match. Like I think that would be really cool, just to really emphasize a little bit more, to where they kind of get that tag team shot at any time. We were talking about the Scorpio Sky and drop storyline. Maybe that's a way to get him and Ethan Page kind of back into that tag team title picture. And I can definitely see if, say, the Lucha Bros were to win the AEW tag team titles in that steel cage, maybe we see Scorpio Sky and Page getting involved with the Lucha Brothers right after that. Because I don't think the Young Bucks need to be pushed right back into that scene after.
No, I agree. At some point, you gotta remember, you gotta move some of these teams forward, and you gotta take some teams out of this mix to put other teams back up into it. Because the Young Bucks are great, but I think I'd love to see a singles run for one of the two of them. I really would. They can do so much for the tag team division, but at this point, they've done what they can. I'd love to see a little bit of a singles run, not a breakup. Just have the guys go do their own thing.
Yeah, exactly. I agree, not just about the Young Bucks, Ed, but Jeremiah is saying in there they need to break up some teams to progress the scene. I don't think you need to break up. I don't think we need to go that road of having to break a team up to get singles runs. I think you just have some teams kind of fall back down the tag team ladder while some of these younger teams pick up, and maybe have a Jack Perry go on a singles run while Luchasaurus is kind of in his corner with Marco. Maybe have one of the Bucks go on a run. Have them still as a team working together without having to force these breakup angles that you're just going to put them back together again eventually down the road anyhow.
Yeah, a good example of that is the New Day, to be honest. You can have everyone do their own individual thing, but as long as you keep that unity and that alliance together, I don't think you necessarily need to break anybody up. Asher, kind of your thoughts on this, and where do you see maybe the tag team division going in AEW?
Yeah, I was thinking something along the what you were saying, of some kind of match to involve all the teams to see who goes over, and then have them go against whoever wins the Young Bucks Lucha Bros match. I really am excited for that one. I can imagine all those spots they're gonna do with that steel cage. But I would like to see some type of match like that, just to get everybody involved and to highlight everybody in the tag team division, so we don't forget who's in the division as well. And it'll be good to just give everybody their spot to shine in that match. So it'll be cool to see a match like that at All Out, for example.
As Cody, I believe, needs to pour another bowl of cereal, he is going to step out for a second. No, he is also having canine issues. If the phrase "bitches be crazy" can work, I think it's right now. Cody is now back. Sorry, just getting Cody back in there. Yeah, cool. Speaking of which, I think this is a good time to kind of transition. Because, well, let's face it. Unless we is there any part of the WWE tag team scene that kind of stood out for anybody? Because I thought it was pretty generic this week, and that was going to be. I know there's a comment that I was going to get to, and it was talking about FTR possibly leaving. Just hold on, I can't find it right now, but there we go. I would love to see FTR join the NWA. I think they're just a team that bleeds NWA, bleeds that old school. I would love to see a trio between them and Nick Aldis. I think that would be absolutely amazing, especially when we talk about how much AEW has kind of used an attempt to kind of recreate the Four Horsemen with like the Shawn Spears and Tully Blanchard and that. I think they really can do it in NWA, and they only got a 16-time world's heavyweight champion back in the fold. So maybe, I mean, no offense to Arn or Tully, but if you're gonna do something, you do it right, and you go to the star in Ric Flair, I believe. And man, Ric Flair, we were talking in previous episodes what you can see for Ric Flair. Ric Flair and FTR could be interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't feel like they need, like, do they need somebody to talk for them? Do they need somebody working with them, like a manager like that? Like,
No.
I guess they have Tully, but Tully's more for that they want Tully on TV, and Tully's with Shawn because Shawn needs that little bit of extra credibility.
I'll throw this one out there because this is kind of what I'm thinking. How much more just with an association to Ric Flair have we seen Andrade and Charlotte in the last little bit? Like, obviously Charlotte, but with the fact that she carries the name, she carries a lot of the similar trademarks as Flair, her stock immediately rises because it's like guilty by association kind of, but it's done in a positive way. Andrade seems like when he's paired up with Ric Flair, now all of a sudden he's in the tabloids. He's what's being talked and trending on Twitter because it's Ric Flair. Ric Flair just somehow gets always in the news. Now, by that same breath, if he's aligned with FTR, we're talking about FTR more. Lately, we haven't been talking a lot about FTR. So, I mean, this could be just a way to help elevate FTR into a more prominent role with the mainstream. I mean, thoughts?
I feel like FTR was lined up for those titles before the injury. Honestly, I feel like that's where we were heading. It's just that they've been in these vignettes just for a short period, short little snippets every episode to kind of keep them in mind is why we haven't been talking about them as much. If his arm is okay and he can go and we're ready to get back into this, I think FTR versus Santana Ortiz this week is going to be fantastic, and I think FTR could be a great first opponent for Lucha Bros once they're done with the Bucks.
Indeed.
Yeah. Okay.
Splitting tag teams, it's one of the things that we have this comment from Jeremiah, and while I agree that I would love to see Matt Hardy get away from Private Party, I think Inner Circle can kind of stay as a collective whole and kind of doing their own thing. They just need to focus on the parts inside that own thing to really make that feel, more fleshed out. Like, you don't need to break up, Jericho from Sammy and Sammy from, Pride and Powerful. You can leave them all together and just have them go do their own thing.
Yeah. Kind of just adding to this point, being in the Inner Circle for too long can hurt Hagar and Sammy. I really feel that Hagar was pigeonholed as a heater almost from day one, and kind of he needs to do something to set himself apart before you think it's the Inner Circle holding them back, because he hasn't really done enough to make himself as much of an individual standout. With Sammy, I think he has that potential to do more, and I think we saw that with his match against Shawn Spears, that when it comes to the in-ring, he definitely can stand out. He just has that factor to where, he can be taken as an individual asset away from the Inner Circle. I don't know. Like, to me, like, if you're going to break something up, there has to be a rhyme and a reason for it. I mean, we can sit here and talk about how much we feel this happened in the New York promotion, we'll say, too much, and it really didn't create anything. One being the Iconics, who I think is one.
The inspiration.
I know, I'm getting there. the Inspiration didn't get broken up in WWE. It was the Iconics, but now they are being known as the Inspiration, announcing a Inspiration tour, getting back in the market. I'm going to start with Astrid here. What are your thoughts about the Inspiration? Where would you like them to go? And what do you think the future holds for the artists formerly known as Peyton Royce and Billie Kay?
I feel like for them, they could do anything. They could be from serious characters to the comedic to comedy, and they'll be fine either way. We don't know where I will put them, to be honest, but I think maybe somewhere like Impact maybe could be good just to elevate that women's division. But I mean, they could honestly go anywhere, and I think they will be fine, you know. But I would like to see them in Impact just to like get the crowd going and the crowd talking about them. And I'm really excited that they have this going on, because I thought maybe they wouldn't be able to do something for quite a while. So I'm really excited they're doing this, and you know, we'll see what happens now.
Yeah, we are. Sorry, we are doing good, Throwback. Thank you much for joining us. And I'm just trying to get through the comments. And you putting her over feels like they are on their way to Impact, which Impact's making some headlines this week for bringing in guys. But Ed, we'll go to you now because you were about to say something.
I was about to agree with Astrid and putting you over. I wholeheartedly feel like they belong at Impact. They really have a feel of a tag team, and the only non WWE place that you can put women's tag teams right now, I mean, it is Impact. Like, you really don't have a huge list of tag teams for women's wrestling when you go to AEW, and if they're not going to go to a Joshi promotion, then they're obviously going to stay in the States, and if they're going to do that, it's Impact.
Cody, your thoughts on the Inspiration?
I have a lot of thoughts on the Inspiration. I have been a huge Cassie fan all the way back to Sasha's days in NXT. The first time I ever saw Cassie in an enhancement match when Sasha was the champion, I saw star written all over her. I feel like she really kind of grew as a character in the E, but I think Impact is a great place for them to go if they're going to be a team. I'm really excited at the idea of the Inspiration taking on Havoc and Rosemary for those tag titles. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, you've got Jordan Grace, you've got Tennille Dashwood, you've got Deonna Purrazzo, you've got so much in Impact that I would love to see those two there. And clearly the Forbidden Door isn't really that forbidden anymore between Impact and AEW. That, sure, they're on the Impact roster, but there's always the possibility we could see that crossover with them getting a chance with Britt Baker. You could get them with Layla Hirsch. You can get them with Thunder Rosa. So many names that these girls could work well with that I'd love to see them grow.
Yeah, I mean, I know back when actually Throwback, I'll throw at your a crazy pinfall championship tournament that you're doing. We were I think it was Slammiversary that I was doing, and I'm like, oh man, like just seeing them in Impact with those knockout tag team titles just seemed to make sense, because how can you have a female duo and not have them a part of a company that has female dual championships? But then again, I remember where they came from, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's why that's how. Because, well, I mean, to be honest, I remember when they won the tag team championships in WWE, and a lot of people were very up in arms of why they took the titles away from Sasha and Bayley at WrestleMania, and that was a kind of a scene there. But really, they kind of, I thought, were the first legit tag team to wear those championships. And it just seemed too confusing when they split. They're just absolutely money together. I would love to see them going up against like the Jordan Graces and the Rachel Ellerings of the world. I think, it's Ellering now. Yeah. But like, I think that would be a great match. I would also love to see against Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter. I think that would be a great match. Plus, I think just the singles match with Cassie and Britt would just be absolutely great. But yeah, I think there's endless possibilities. But I do believe that with Mickie James kind of changing the landscape of female wrestling in, I want to say, North America right now, and just with those companies and just doing what she's doing to kind of, break the wall in the sense of where women can wrestle, because I think we're in a time now where we're seeing a lot more possibilities in wrestling in general, but there wasn't anybody really standing up for the women until Mickie James kind of got that release from WWE, which I think is very beneficial to get them more public exposure and just more opportunities. So I think that's something to really look for. I think it's smart if they don't necessarily sign with a company right away, because the more they can create a buzz about them wherever they go, then wherever they do decide to go is going to be a huge story, and even a bigger one at that point.
I just want to hit on this while we're talking about the women's wrestling story and specifically teams. Last night's debut of the Bunny and Penelope Ford team, I really like that pairing. I think those two can be great assets for each other growing in the company. And again, another team that I would love to see the Inspiration get a chance to line up against, because I think Penelope Ford and the Bunny are both up and coming women in the industry.
And our other buddy Alex is popping in saying hello, and hello to you. Make sure you can check Alex later on, because I think is he not doing anything tonight too? No?
I don't know if he's doing the Empower Reacts that we have going on tonight.
Well, I mean, we might as well just plug that now since you brought it up. Yes, that was probably the worst kept plug I had, but let's face it, it's Saturday morning. But no, make sure you check out, I believe, Astrid, you're a part of it with our good friend Zach, and because of that, we're going to play a little bit of a clip with him where he had a little chat with Joe Golly. Yeah, I get it right when it matters. All right. So here's a clip right now.
But what's the energy like in GPB Studio right now as we approach Empower and NWA 73?
Well, I have to say the energy with the NWA roster, it's super energized. It's probably, we are getting the most media coverage that we've ever gotten. I mean, that's including, the participation that we had at All In. That's including the Crockett Cup that we did in North Carolina. What's happening in St. Louis is drawing all kinds of press, and it's not just gentlemen like yourself, Zach, no offense, but it's drawing the traditional media. We have, reporters from Rolling Stone, Forbes, every local paper that's there, every local television station wants a spot there. And so that's really showing the interest that people have in our product, and people who work in NWA and the people who are wrestling at Empower, at NWA 73, at our NWA Power tapings, they see that and they feel that. And I've had many conversations, especially with some of the newer female talent that I've never had to call commentary for. And so I like to talk to them ahead of time if I can, just to kind of get the particulars. It's always good to know what your finisher's called. You know what I mean? You don't want to try to figure that out on the fly. So like, if you were to win a match, what would you use? And then they would tell me the name of it, their version of it. And other conversations like that. But in just talking about it, they've all said basically the same thing, that they can't believe that they're going to be wrestling at the Chase, that they're going to be a part of this historic moment, that they're, potentially could be the recrowning of the NWA World's Women's Tag Team Championship belts. I mean, you've got some amazing competitors that are there, some that have very long lineages with the National Wrestling Alliance. And they understand that this is a huge opportunity. But I think, I won't speak for anyone, but my assumption is they feel that this is special, this is different, and this is unique. And it's something that I think people will talk about for a while.
And just kind of tailgating on that, before I get to a point that I want to make, the fact that if the Inspiration were to show up in that tournament would be really cool. But the point I was just going to make, because I know we're always so used to seeing whether it's Spencer always doing the interviews. Sometimes we see Josh kind of dabble into this. But Zach, you do not get enough love and appreciation for your interviews. You were just a nice, calming one. Definitely a clap for you, my friend. Very good. Must-see interview with Joe Golly. And if you haven't seen it, we do have a little ticker at the bottom here. And you know what? Just check us out. Go to lovewrestling.ca to check out more and make sure you don't miss that, because Zach, you are doing fantastic work and you are much, much a huge part of the success of Love Wrestling. So good job, buddy. We're very proud of you here.
I just want to throw something else in here while we're talking about Zach and giving him plugs and kudos.
Yep.
Remember that Smark and Friends finally comes to Love Wrestling starting this Thursday, and of course, we're going to have Power Out every Tuesday before NXT War Report.
Yeah, we are definitely on the way up, and I very much appreciate that. We're talking about the inspiration. I feel we're talking about the tag team part of the women, but why don't we talk about something that I know we were talking about previous 30 minutes on SmackDown for a number one contendership for the SmackDown Women's Championship. What a match. What an amazing thing. Astrid, I know that your feet are in the pool. You want to get them soaked up with this conversation. We'll let you start it off. Your thoughts on this match and how much did you enjoy it?
I really love the match. I love that it wasn't just like, hey, Bianca, you're getting a rematch. It was like, you're earning it. And I like how everybody was involved. I wish Tony would have been involved in this particularly because we haven't seen her since her debut. But aside from that, I like how everybody got highlighted. And I'm like, when was the last time we got 30 minutes of the women's matches? Like, especially at the start of the show. I'm like, I really like that it started like that, going from that promo to that match. I was expecting a tag team match, how WWE is always going. And then to see a four-way match, and not only just a four-way, but elimination match, I was like, yes, this is exactly what we needed. Everybody got highlighted. And to see Liv wrestle again, Liv hasn't been on TV since Money in the Bank, I believe. So it's nice to see her wrestle and how much she has improved, and that pop she got from the crowd. I really loved this. I was so happy when it ended up, and I saw somebody tweet it. It was 30 minutes of women's wrestling. I'm like, no way. I could not believe it, and I was so happy. So, I'm like so excited about it.
Cody, we'll turn to you. Your thoughts about this. And kind of like what do we expect to see coming out of this match?
First and foremost, I am 100% with Astrid. When they went to that commercial after kind of the brawl to start the show, I was sitting there during the commercials like, this would be the point to do a fatal four-way, but this is WWE, so they're going to a tag team match, and I was pleasantly surprised to see it be the fatal four-way, and especially for the number one contenders. I remember, I think it was on Between Two Beards this week, I made mention to JPJ and Pluggo that Liv's kind of just disappeared for the last month since the Money in the Bank, and her push almost felt like it was disappearing. So it was nice to see them get her back out there and make sure that she's not fallen out of people's memories too much, and especially with a really, really strong showing like that. Bianca getting the rematch here makes the most sense. Hopefully we get more than 26 seconds this time and she actually holds her own and puts on the match everybody wishes that had happened at SummerSlam. But I think ultimately we've got to be heading towards Liv being really one of the next ones into that picture for the title. Tony would have been nice to see her in there just for that exposure, but I feel like Tony might be somebody you build up to really be that true foil to Becky in a few months.
Ed.
I'm going to take another little look at this and talk about, I know we're Love Wrestling. We want to talk about all the good things here. But there's something I need to nitpick about this, and I'm going to start with the Becky Lynch portion. Becky Lynch just walking away from Bianca and going, yeah, no, I don't want to. Like, I guess they're really trying to pull up that heel dynamic, because if that's the Becky Lynch of old, she's everybody and anybody, just come on, I'll take you all on. And she's like, yeah, no, I just don't feel like it. Whatever, you're not good enough, and walked away. If this doesn't end with Bianca getting that title back from her, it's really going to look bad as you watch it back. And the other thing I wanted to point out is Zelina Vega. Can we find someone this woman can at least beat? This woman came back to the WWE. She re-signed a deal because she wanted to be with her husband. They then released her husband. On top of that, every time she's appeared on television, she's lost. And she keeps interrupting segments where she tries to make herself feel like a big deal and get a title shot. How about you win a match, and then we can talk about you having a chance at a title? Because I feel like you have to win something in order to be able to get a championship.
It's like Kurt Hawkins coming out and interrupting a Goldberg or a Brock Lesnar or a Bobby Lashley. It's just what I'm picturing here is Hawkins on his 400 match losing streak being like, hey guys, I'm here for a title match.
Yeah, like, could you imagine if we had James Ellsworth trying to challenge Brock Lesnar, like legitimately coming out in a promo segment and being like, Brock, I want a world title match. You'd be like, why?
I mean, but the pop refused to win.
I mean, any man with 2 fists has a fighting chance. But
Yeah.
Except for James Ellsworth.
he beat AJ Styles, man.
He almost killed himself by not knowing how to sell AJ Styles, but that's beyond the point. I just thought of this. I would love to see Zelina Vega and Eva Marie pair up.
No.
I think these two are some of the better pure talkers. Zelina Vega is like, her promo skills are just second to none. I don't think we can dispute that. But I feel Zelina Vega can play this part just as well as Eva Marie does. These two together could very well be heat magnets in the WWE world. And I believe that they could really revamp the tag team scene there. I don't know. Like, I think Zelina Vega needs to do something that's meaningful. I would love to see something different out of these two. Plus, I think Eva needs somebody to kind of kickstart her into that new gear, especially when it comes to like just being challenged. And I think Zelina Vega just needs something to do. And I think that's really what we want. We want her to win a match, but we really need to see her put in something long term. I think that would be very beneficial for Zelina Vega.
I have an idea based on that whole idea we were just talking about. If we're going to put someone with Eva Marie and we're going to kind of try to jumpstart something, and we've kind of given up on Cross the way he is, what about Scarlett? Because I think Scarlett fits into that Eva Marie gimmick a lot better than Zelina does. Because I think that's the kind of gimmick that Scarlett wants to portray. The model aspect, the pretty girl, things like that. And I think that with Eva Marie, I think Eva can help talk for the two of them, but Scarlett's actually a lot more talented in the ring than people give her credit for, especially if you watch the Smoke Show days in TNA. And I wholeheartedly think that Scarlett would be a really good fit with Eva Marie.
I thought the same about Frankie Monet, to be honest. But go ahead, Cody. I'm not going to...
I would like to touch on kind of the whole idea there, too. How you're saying put Eva and Zelina together, Parrish, I think I would prefer seeing them against each other. I would like to see a story with the two of them where you've got them trying to one-up each other on, like, Eva getting somebody to fill in for her and Zelina getting someone to fill in for here, and then Eva fakes an injury, Zelina fakes an injury. I think those two against each other could play that mind game back and forth with each other. Similar to what we've seen a little bit with Charlotte and Rhea a couple months back, where they were trying to continually play each other's game. I really think Zelina and Eva have that similarity that they could play each other's game. Maybe it ends up in that tag team you suggest afterwards, but at least to start, just have them screwing with each other.
Yeah, I just think these two could have really good chemistry, whether it's with each other or against each other. And I could very much see a Sheamus Cesaro type relationship with these two. And I think that'd be really interesting. I don't know, but then again, I'm also the guy that I'm like, hey, everybody compared Elias to Macho Man. And I'm like, maybe they should pair Elias and Lacey Evans together and maybe recreate a modern day Elizabeth and Macho. I don't know. I think outside the box a lot. So come at me. But at least my ideas were giving them something than the crap they were given. So
when Elias was in NXT, I remember saying that I thought his top rope elbow drop was the best I'd seen since Randy Savage. So the comparison's real.
Yeah.
Young Elias in NXT is still my thing on Twitch. I don't know if anybody's ever noticed that, but when you bring up one of my comments, that's a picture of Angelo Dawkins, some other guy, and Elias.
In a weird way, I think this is a good transition to talk about something different in Elias. Oh, actually, Elias, we'll get to you in a second. Throwback saying you guys are making the workday as a table talk warm up perfect. What's your expectations for All Out? Do you see Danielson getting into a match? Astrid, you pull this one up. You start.
I mean, with the Punk teases and everything going on, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing, Brian coming out during All Out. I think that will give such a huge pop to give that extra oomph to the pay-per-view as well. So I wouldn't mind seeing him at all.
Ed?
I mean, he's already supposedly booked to come out the next week. So I'd honestly just say hold off and wait for TV. You've done a good job lately of putting some decent surprises on television. You're already selling your pay-per-view. You've got CM Punk coming back and facing Darby Allin. You just added Miro versus Kingston, which is going to be fantastic. The card is really stacked already as it is. I don't think you need a Daniel Bryan appearance unless you're setting up a specific feud for the night when he shows up at the Grand Slam at Arthur Ashe Stadium. So unless he's popping up specifically for, yes, with Danhausen, absolutely. But I mean, Daniel Bryan versus Danhausen. Could you just imagine the promos that would come from something like that? Because Bryan doesn't like to swear anyway, so we wouldn't have Danhausen talking about cursing anybody for swearing.
I mean, I'll throw it out there. What about Punk and Danhausen against Sting and Darby Allin?
I mean, if you can get Ring of Honor to give you Danhausen for that, absolutely. I'm in favor of anything with Danhausen because that man is a God-given talent.
I would say he's one of the most entertaining guys that just lives his gimmick outside of the ring.
If you don't follow him on Twitter, you're missing out, by the way.
Oh, I 100% agree. Cody, we'll get to you because you are our resident AEW expert.
That All Out card is lining up to just be absolutely stacked already at this point. I don't see how you fit a match in. I think we get his debut. I think he shows up and calls somebody out or responds to somebody calling out for real competition, i.e. maybe a Miro. I think Bryan Danielson 100% will be at All Out. I think he'll be on TV at All Out. I just really don't think we get a match from him on that show. I think if anything, it sets up a match for him either on a Dynamite or down the line at the Arthur Ashe Stadium.
Yeah, I think another name that I think just needs to be addressed with a possible all-out appearance is Adam Cole. We don't, as of what I believe it was yesterday, his contract officially ended with WWE. And we don't know what the deal is. There was rumors that if he's not to resign, there is a no compete clause. But, I mean, that's speculation at this point. Who knows if it's true or not? So, at that point, if it's a possibility, I mean, do we want to see Adam Cole in AEW?
I want to see Adam Cole wherever Adam Cole wants to go. If Adam Cole wants to go to Ring of Honor, Adam Cole goes to Ring of Honor. If Adam Cole wants to go to Impact, Adam Cole goes to Impact. And by the way, Adam Cole and Impact right now, with the talent they have, is being vastly underrated. I know they can't pay him like AEW can. And I know they don't have Britt Baker. And I know those are huge concerns. But just based on talent alone, I think people are vastly underrating the amount of impact that Adam Cole could make in Impact.
I mean, and to this comment, Adam Cole would be a heel. He would be a face. He'd get a pop, but he always gets that pop. But he always is a better heel. But I don't know.
Remember, if you're talking Adam Cole in AEW, we have to revive him from the dead first.
Well, actually, it's only the being an elite you got to revive him on.
Well, yes, but being the elite is
disconnected.
Dynamite. Have you not seen this?
I don't care about the show, to be honest.
He'll just come back with a different name and be like a long-lost twin brother to the guy they
Adam
killed.
Coleman?
I mean, imagine if that's it. Get Breeze coming in as Adam Coleman to revive his long-lost cousin, Adam Cole. And just how much entertaining that could be. I don't know. I mean, if we want to talk about somebody who's also pure entertainment, I think the man once known as Tyler Breeze, gorgeous, we'll just say. That guy deserves a lot of credit. He is one of the most entertaining guys, I think, outside of WWE. If you watched him on the Up, Down, Down, and all that stuff, that guy is just absolutely entertaining left to right. Or maybe left, right. I don't know.
And if you want to see pure joy, watch Up, Down, Down's video from yesterday.
With Kofi?
with COVID. Well, not even with that, but like the look of pure joy. Just watch Nikki Ash in that entire thing. She is the happiest little woman in the world. It is fantastic.
Breeze and Cole were both just a joy to watch on Up, Down, Down. But shout out to Breeze. I read a recent interview with him where he talked about learning from Lance Storm on how to be responsible in WWE. And that's why he doesn't feel a need to be jumping to another promotion right now, because he took care of his money and took care of his life and is a really, really down-to-earth, well-established guy with lots of different projects on the go that he doesn't need wrestling. And that's why he wasn't bitter about his release from WWE, is he was prepared that someday that release is going to come. I better be prepared right now. So ton of respect for that man. I wish nothing for but the best for Tyler Breeze wherever he ends up.
Yeah, the one thing I've noticed a little bit lately, and whether it's Aleister Black when he got released, and how much kind of just humbleness and respect that he talked about once he was away from the company, and then Breeze himself, who you can really tell how much he grew up and was responsible for his own actions, especially when they talked about the Twitch aspect. And he's like, this is just a case of the boys will wreck it for the boys. He didn't throw anyone under the bus, except for the fact that it's like, no, look, nobody cared about it before. I was doing it. I didn't know how. I didn't monetize it. The problem was a lot of people thought, hey, there's this option where you can do more with it. Let's do it ourselves. But they didn't know how to regulate it and be respectful to the company that they're working at. And he also said, like, if WWE sees this problem and they notice a lot of it's coming down to this, they don't know much about it, it's easier for them just to say kibosh and like no longer. It's not because they just didn't want to take the time to individually specify every problem when they feel like, oh no, look, we just have a clump of issues coming in with this. Let's just kibosh it, and it's a no thing. I just think that was a nice way of saying, look, it's nobody's fault. I don't blame WWE for doing what they're doing. You got to be more responsible if you want to take on new projects, or else this is what's happening. And I just love the fact that he was a grown-up. He was a responsible adult out of this whole thing. He was mature, and he's like, look, you got to just appreciate what you have. And if you don't, then just don't do it anymore. And that's something that I personally have taken in my personal life now. And I just think it's very refreshing to see guys talk with so much humbleness and positivity when something maybe negative happens to them. So I'm very happy that we kind of touched on that, because I think Tyler Breeze or Matt Clement or Matt on the Couch or Adam Coleman is going to be just fine. We showed that video with Zach and Joe Golly, and I feel we'd be really missed if we didn't talk about the NWA with their show tonight. Ed, I'm going to start with you, because I know between the four of us, I think you are more intact with the NWA than the four. So what are your thoughts on tonight's show, and what are you most looking forward to?
Tonight's show is jam-packed with all kinds of fantastic things. Just to read off a couple of things here. You've got a singles triple threat match between Chick Tormenta from AAA, Diamante from AEW, and Kylie Ray from NWA. That's fantastic. You've got the tournament for the tag team to revive the NWA Women's Tag Team Championships, involving Allison Kay and Marty Bell. You've got Renee Michelle in there. But if we're talking about anything from this card, we're talking about Camille versus Layla Hirsch. I mean, little Layla Hirsch from AEW, girl who's all of 5 foot something, going up against one of the biggest women in wrestling right now, with it being Camille. It's going to be an absolute great match, and I'm very excited for that.
Many, Cody.
I haven't been following NWA really up to this point, but I'm absolutely trying to tune in tonight to see this. The build for it is exciting. There's a lot of great names going to be on there. The Camille and Layla Hirsch match, absolutely. The other one that really, really has me intrigued is Deonna Purrazzo and Melina. Mm-hmm. I loved me some Eminem back in the day. I'm happy to see Melina back in a ring. Really excited to see where she is physically speaking at this point in her career and how she hangs in a ring with the virtuosa herself.
I guess I kind of made a mistake. The show's tomorrow, isn't it?
No,
No,
Empower is
tonight.
tonight. NWA 73 is tomorrow.
But yeah, I was actually thinking 73, so I just want to point it out that I was the one who messed up. So I am going to man up to that one. But yeah, no, Empower going to be a great show. And make sure if you want to check out a good reacts tonight, Love Wrestling, we will have that as Zach and Astrid will absolutely blow your mind with their thoughts on the show. And speaking of someone who will blow your mind with their thoughts, Astrid, what are your thoughts going into this show?
I honestly am not really familiar with NWA, but when I started seeing the advertisements for the matches, I got really excited for it. So I'm like, I knew I wanted to tune in and watch anyway, even if it's just that one time I watch NWA. But like the one I'm looking forward to is Deanna and Melina. But there's so many talented women on this card. Like to think we have like, I cannot imagine having Allison, Marty Bell, and to have Chelsea Green on top of it, and like thinking of all these names, Diamante on this card. There's so many people on here, and I'm like, I'm really excited for this card. And yeah, when Zach told me to join him, I'm like, yeah, I had to join. I'm looking forward to the pay-per-view and to see how this woman shine. And we don't know who else is going to show up either way, because you never know what happens in NWA as well. So who knows if maybe somebody else shows up that we're not expecting.
All right, just because it's fun to do, I'm going to go around the round and think, who do we have coming out of the Deanna Melina match for the Impact Women's Wrestling Championship? Who do we have going to the finals for their tag team? And who do we have walking out as your NWA Women's Champion? I'm going to start with Cody. He seems the most confused.
Do you want me to give a rundown of the teams that are in the tag team thing?
Yes.
I've got the card up too.
Okay. I wasn't sure if everybody had the card pulled up, so I was like, I can do this if we need to.
I mean, we should talk about what the matches are first, and like for those who don't know, and maybe this could be our little pitch of like go and watch the NWA. So I will. In one of the actually, I'll start with the NWA Women's Championship. We do have Camille against Layla Hirsch. Camille is the champion for the people who may not know going in. And then for the NWA World's Women's Tag Team Championships, we got the Hex, which is a private of Allison Kay and Marty Bell against Hell on Heels, Renee Michelle, and Sahara 7. That is one semifinals. The other one is Red Velvet and Keelan King. I hope I got that correct. Versus the Free Babes. That name is fantastic, by the way. Which include Jazzy Yang, Hollywood Haley, Jay, and Miranda Gordy. So that is the other singles. And then, of course, we got Deanna Purrazzo, who is the current Impact Knockouts champion, going up against Melina Perez. Cody.
It's hard to envision either one of the top titles switching hands here. I really think you want to do it because it's going to be such a big show, and a lot of eyes that maybe don't watch NWA are tuning into this for the first time. But you've got Layla as an AEW talent, Camille as an NWA talent. I would think Camille has to defend her NWA title on an NWA show. Deanna is just so amazing at everything she's doing right now that as much as I love Melina, it would be unusual for me to see her come in and win her first match back for the title. As far as the tag team titles go, I don't know most of those names in the tag team tournament there. I've seen some Allison Kay. I've obviously seen Red Velvet recently. So I'm going to say based on names alone, we're going to go with the Hex and the Free Babes.
All right, now I believe the finals are also on this night. Am I? So who do you have winning?
We'll say the Hex.
All right. Astrid, I am going to save you for last because I think it just makes the most sense. So Ed, will turn to you.
I'm going to go ahead and take Layla Hirsch. I'm going to take the Hex, and I'm going to take Deanna Purrazzo.
I am boring. I'm also going to agree with you because that's exactly who I have. Astrid as our natural expert.
Funny enough, I'm behind Layla because I'm just as tall as Layla is, surprisingly. So, but no, I will go with Camille for that one. I don't see Layla winning that match like that. And Deanna, with the momentum Deanna has, I wouldn't have her losing like that. I love Melina, don't get me wrong, but I don't see Deanna losing just like this. And for the tag team one, I was always thinking between the Hex and Kyling and Red Velvet, just because I want to see that match really badly. but I do want the Hex to win that match at least, though, at the end.
And just to throw this out there, just because, I mean, Cody brought it up, and I think it's important to note, whoever wins the title match tonight for the NWA, they are going to defend that title again tomorrow night at NWA 73 against the winner of the NWA Women's Invitational Gauntlet, which includes Bianca Sorelli, Chelsea Green, Debbie Malenko, Lady Frost, Jamie Senegal, Genocide, Kira Hogan, Masha Slamovich, Thunder Kitty, and Tootie Lynn.
Yep. And
So
if
there's
people,
a chance that if they can move the title tonight and then move it again to somebody else who's an NWA signed talent to end the weekend.
and if anybody wants to know more about Masha Slamovich, make sure you check out Spencer Love's beautiful interview with her live here on Love Wrestling. There we go. I don't have to go to the office this week. I did my job unplugging people. So, do we want to talk about the 73, or should we talk more about that on brunch tomorrow? I'm going to make that just an open conversation, because I'm more than happy of talking to NWA if people want to.
I have no idea what's happening on 73 tomorrow. I've
Okay,
heard about
we will-
Empower. I haven't heard about
I was
73
going to say,
at all.
I have the card for that too if we want to run down.
Okay. We will save that for brunch so Cody can do a little bit of research, because we don't want to make him. We all know, Cody, you got a little bit wrong upstairs, so we don't want to wreck you too much right now.
There's so much wrestling to try and keep up with right now that I'm doing my best, but I'm also working 12-hour shifts at the shoot job, so
It's okay,
ROH,
brother.
Impact, NJ, WWE, AEW. I'm like, somewhere in here I gotta find sleep, right?
No, you don't. That's the best part. You just got to keep going. Keep going at all costs. You got to watch it all. It's like Pokemon, but better. It's wrestling.
So, Paris, speaking of watching it all, how was TakeOver?
Takeover was awesome. I actually very much appreciated the NXT UK Championship match. Oh my God, did they just kick the crap out of each other? And it's fantastic. I loved it. That match was just terrific. It really was
Have
great.
you ever been that bruised after a match?
Yes.
Like,
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I've done a few ladder matches. Yeah. You really. I mean, Ilya said that he didn't even sleep that night. So yeah, just to add on to your point, Cody. No, you don't need sleep. You just don't. But I don't know. It was also I know it was very odd watching that show, knowing that was kind of the last of the NXT as I knew it, or that's kind of what I felt when I was watching it. Cameron Grimes, great for him. I know we were predicting the show not too long ago. Part of me really doesn't like Joe as champion, though. I am going to say that. I don't know. To me, I don't know. I think I would have liked Cross keeping down there for a bit, just letting him be that champion for a little longer.
I mean, I think the problem with that is that you knew he was going to Raw and he was going up there. And I think that you can put the title on Joe now to move the title to somebody else and have Joe, kind of make a star out of whoever he loses the title to. Because he doesn't need a long title reign, because Joe's big enough name, like Finn, that you can just kind of do whatever with him. Now, granted, Finn held a title for, I want to say 6 months. And I mean, you could do that with Joe as well. But I think you can put the title on Joe now and then take it off of him and put it on Pete Dunne after this.
Yeah, and then that's where I was getting at. Who do we think is actually the guy that takes it off Samoa Joe? I know Pete Dunne is the odds-on favorite probably right now. He looks to be like that. Do we have any dark horses? Because I think LA Knight very much could be a potential dark horse candidate taking that title off him.
Kyle O'Reilly.
I don't know that I consider Kyle a dark horse, but I think Kyle's there. I think LA Knight is really the true dark horse. I think this match next week with LA and Johnny Gargano is going to be something special. But there's so many names and so many matches lined up to see now. You've got Joe and Johnny, you've got Joe and Pete, you've got Joe and Kyle, you've got other names that are coming up like Carmelo out of the tournament there. There's still a lot of talent down there that I think there's a number of guys who could hit that spot to take it from Joe. But it depends on how long they plan to keep it on him. It does seem like a weird flex, though, to have Samoa Joe as your first ever 3-time champion in NXT, though. You'd think that should be somebody a little bit more NXT born and bred, as opposed to a Joe who had so much success everywhere else before coming to the dub.
I mean, you also remember he's also the first 2-time champion as well.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's not like it's the first time. He's been the first multiple-time champion.
No, it just seems like a weird flex that he's that guy in NXT.
Oh, I agree. But I just love the fact that he's back there and he's doing big things for younger. That he's got the opportunity to do big things for younger talent.
SCW, the wrestling channel,
Steve's
comes
in the
in.
house. Nice.
Would love to see LA Knight push towards the top of NXT, but right now I can see Pete Dunne being the top contender to take the title off Joe.
Don't forget Ridge Holland. I'm sorry, I just want to interrupt. Don't forget Ridge Holland in all this mix.
No. Astrid, I'll go to you. Your kind of thoughts on kind of the direction they go in. You brought up in our private chat, because we know the one thing that is going away for sure is the NXT logo. So as a transition, talk about who can be the one that takes the title off Joe, and your initial thoughts on the beginning of the rebranding of the NXT with the colorful logo of NXT.
I mean, like, up to obviously between Pete and LA, I wouldn't mind any of them, but I think it will highlight more LA Knight at this time to have a title compared to Pete, because we already know Pete's a star, but I feel like LA Knight has only had that obviously $1 million championship sort of thing situation, so I wouldn't mind seeing him with the title going on. And with the logo, I just thought it was funny how they released that during SmackDown too, and then I'm like, the conversation went from SmackDown to the logo, and it was back and forth on that. It was pretty funny seeing my timeline with all the reactions to this colorful logo that we have going on. I mean, I don't mind it, but I just want to see how that rebranding will take effect maybe this coming week on the show, maybe, and how different it'll be. I don't know.
I just love how they obviously didn't.
Somebody's got a fan. I'm gonna keep this one up.
Ironically, how I hate it. But okay.
I do love how NXT, has that brand new logo, and it's obviously not derived from any other wrestling company, in any way, shape, or form. They didn't just copy their friend's homework.
It'll be very interesting to see how these changes affect the overall product, because that logo for so long with the black and yellow in the ring and the presentation dynamic of NXT, we've all associated those colors with the NXT product right from the beginning, and now you're taking and moving away from that yellow entirely and putting us into kind of the rainbow spectrum. Feels like it would have been a lot better when you had Prince Devitt down there making his own rainbow colored shirts, but
Jake Atlas would have been nice too, things like that. The one thing I want to say, bringing up that point about changing the color and the whole color scheme and whatnot, is it hasn't gone over with some of the diehards. I mean, Izzy was on Twitter this morning talking about how she doesn't like it and how it's not, it's not the NXT that we were born and bred on. It's not We Are NXT, and it's a change. As I used to call her, NXT Grandma. If you guys ever remember the early NXT, there was the old lady. I remember from the Ciampa feud. Remember the Anita Smith, yes. I wasn't sure if anybody would know the name. Yeah. But I call her NXT Grandma. She was always the one giving Ciampa the business on the side. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, love her to death. But even she's talking about how the logo and how it could, divide the, the generations of NXT, and how We Are NXT has always been that calling card of the entire fan base coming together as one, and how things like this could start to break that fan base apart.
You need the NXT fandom to show up in a Pittsburgh style black and yellow in the entire stands for the next live show.
Maybe that was it. If Adam Cole's like, if I can't be NXT, then you got to give me and my girlfriend our colors back. Because they are Pittsburgh born. But at the same time,
Undisputed Era was too, right?
And they had more gold. I mean, they had gold. And I'm this just might be because I'm a Saints fan, but black and gold is always better. But with that being said, I like the new font, like the shapes of the logo. Like I think it's the new word mark looks cool.
It's not centered.
No.
There's a great. If you want to see the most inane person in the world bad mouthing this logo, there is a great video on Twitter floating around about a guy who literally does this thing where he puts it as like a 3-page logo, so you can see where the letters break, and how the break in the X is like off like a half an inch, and how on the one side you have on the edge where the N is, the same break isn't on the same side for the T. Like they've elongated. Oh, it is the most inane but fantastic.
Can I just say maybe a Full Sail student did it?
I wholeheartedly think it's a Full Sail student.
Being a UCF student, I'll say Full Sail did it.
I mean, maybe if maybe this is what Aaliyah was working on because she wasn't doing much when she was there. Heyo, but with that, I don't know. Like, I'll be interested to see where this rebrand is going. Before I really comment anything, yeah, I'm a traditionalist through and through when it comes to a lot of things, whether it's looks. I think when it comes down to what we perceive to be really iconic things, it needs to stand the test of time. It's not a statement made for just the time of the world, which I think is really, really, it's nice to do. I get it. But at the same time, from an overall branding, I think it's kind of silly. And I'll use this as an example. John Cena's Spinner Championship. I thought it was absolutely stupid for that to be anything other than a John Cena Championship. But I don't know. I get that maybe WWE wants to use their platform to help kind of create a better perceived thing. But then I also am thinking of, well, they did say they want to make this more developmental. Maybe it's more of a symbolism, whereas you're talking about how it's not the most polished looking logo. Maybe that's just it. Maybe this represents the fact that the people you're seeing aren't exactly polished, and by the time they're done, that's where they become the Raw or SmackDown more polished. When we're seeing all these colors, maybe that represents the fact that there's so much versatility, but by the time they get to a Raw or SmackDown, they're more into, they come more to their own, and they become more one thing than maybe a group of other things. I don't know. I don't know if there's a symbolism thing here. I don't know if there's more to it. Maybe I'm thinking more of it just so I don't actually talk crap about it because I don't like it. But with that being said, I'll resent any judgment until I see kind of a longer aspect, because it's just a logo for now. We all complained about how stupid people's names were when they got their name changed, but some of them actually were pretty cool. I remember when people got mad that Tommy End's name got changed to Aleister Black, and now I can't really ever see him as Tommy End anymore because Aleister Black was just a cool name, and now he's Malachi Black. He didn't even go back to Tommy End. So I don't know. It's just really interesting to see kind of the new dynamic now. But with that, I also want to talk about Impact right now, because we're seeing a lot of people perhaps signing with Impact, whether it's Braun Strowman. We've heard Impact is really heavily considered trying to sign Bray Wyatt. And we're also getting a potential tease that Buddy Matthews, the former Buddy Murphy, is going to Impact. And I really want to talk about how a lot of people are choosing to go to Impact. Not AEW, not Ring of Honor, maybe not even New Japan, but they're going to Impact. And I think this is a real game changer for Impact if they're able to get all these different assets in. What are we thinking about Impact if they're able to land, the Braun Strowmans, the Buddy Matthews, and maybe even the Iconics if they're to show up, and then Bray Wyatt? Like, that would be a pretty big get in my opinion. The perception and Impact. Where are we at with that? And I don't know, what are we more happy that more people are choosing to go Impact instead of the convolute either WWE or AEW more?
I think it's a good halfway point. I think, like I said, with the Inspiration, Iconics, whatever we want to call them today, I think with that door being open now, and we're seeing, Christian spending a lot of time on AEW with the Impact title. We've had Kenny holding the Impact title for how long on AEW? It's kind of an open transfer between the two, but Impact doesn't have quite as many top stars that guys can go to Impact and really kind of build themselves up, like a Matt Cardona is doing, like the former Kurt Hawkins is doing down there, like Tennille's doing. You've got guys who are getting a little bit more exposure on Impact than they might be getting on AEW, but the door is open there for that crossover or that move up at any point where they're ready to go.
Astrid.
I think it's pretty nice that, for me at least, I started watching Impact back when they were here in Universal in Orlando. So it was nice to go over there and see all the people that I loved because of the names that they had. And unfortunately, I know they lost those names now, but it's nice to see people getting back into it, to see all these names come in here. That would be pretty nice for Impact again, because I stopped watching after some of those talents left. So it'd be nice to see the newer talent come in, that people like Bray Wyatt, for example. I would love to see him there. If the series they give him creative freedom, he'll be unstoppable on Impact. I would like to see that. I'm like, I will find any excuse to watch Impact again, and I think having Bray in there will be a good reason for me. And even the Iconics, I really enjoy them in WWE. I wouldn't mind seeing them, especially if they get to do whatever they want to do. More power to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Impact's got so many good young stars and just people like looking for a home and looking to make a name for themselves. I mean, you've got Deonna Purrazzo, you've got Chris Bay, Josh Alexander, Chris Sabin, Sami Callihan, Moose. Like, you've got all of this talent, and you're bringing in guys like, Christian Cage as their new world champion, bringing in a potential Braun Strowman, bringing in a Buddy Matthews who can absolutely light up the. Like, think about that. Josh Alexander versus Buddy Matthews for the X Division title. Tell me not all of us are going to be sitting there watching that match when that match eventually happens. I mean, Josh Alexander versus Christian Cage, when Josh Alexander finally decides to bring back option C and turns in that X Division title for a chance at Christian. Like, there's so much good stuff going on over there right now. And you've still got, like I said, you still got Chris Bay.
I mean, you said that, but imagine the Buddy Matthews versus Chris Sabin match we have. I mean, Chris Sabin to me has absolutely defined as one of the true cornerstones of that X Division division for years upon years. And Buddy Matthews is almost, I mean, that's right up his wheelhouse. The no limits on all, like, no weight class. Like, I mean, that's him to a T, right? There's just so many possibilities, and I think this is what we loved about whether they were TNA before, now Impact, is they're always that, oh my God, look what's going on over here type promotion. They really stemmed kind of towards what that Ring of Honor was back in the early 2000s, and kind of took that to a mainstream level. And because of that, I think they have just been a new breeding ground for a lot of new, whether it's new stars or even just an amazing place for a second chance. So I think it's definitely worth noting how amazing the potential and the possibilities are in Impact. And you're definitely doing yourself a disservice if you're a fan of pro wrestling by not checking these guys out if they are to land these guys, because, man, the landscape has really changed in professional wrestling in this last month. And it's only going to get a little bit more interesting moving forward. This is kind of the benefit and the positives coming out to WWE, letting all these talents go, is now we're looking at a better wrestling scene on our television sets. And I think that's really cool. So
just going to jump in there, Parrish. Yeah. The thing I've noticed over watching Impact over the last month and a half or so, since I really started tuning into it, is the wrestling, the in-ring product in Impact is top tier. Everything I've seen, all of those athletes, all those competitors, their in-ring work is so strong that it makes watching the show enjoyable no matter what else. But the one drawback they've had, even back to 20 years ago when AJ and Joe and Christopher Daniels were kind of the top stars and I was watching, is their storytelling just isn't up to that same production value as the WWE or even what AEW is putting out right now. Their stories always seem like they're kind of choppy. They're just kind of jammed together. And if they can get somebody like a Bray Wyatt in there with his storytelling ability and his promotional skills, I think that will 100% increase all of their production team's ability to tell a cohesive, strong story. But that said, I don't think we get Bray Wyatt to Impact. I think Wyatt's going to AEW.
I think Wyatt's going to Hollywood, to be perfectly honest with you. I think that's where he ends up next. I could see this dude doing a movie. Like producing his own horror movie.
Yeah.
Sign me up for that.
I'll say this again, like, man, I would have loved to see Bray Wyatt. If I was to repackage him in like a movie role, I would have loved to see him in the See No Evil movies instead of Glenn Jacobs, because that was just absolutely like cool. I thought the thought process of those movies were fantastic, and I'd rather have seen Kane as Kane, like that original debuting Kane. I wanted to see him against Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees. Like, that's what I wanted to see. That whole so I don't know. Like, to me, wrestling characters are as amazing as comic book characters, but you get to see them live all the time, and it's just amazing. Do we have anything else we want to talk about, or have we kind of covered all? I do feel this: Roman Reigns versus Finn Balor deserves us to talk about that.
I think Roman Reigns overall, like that whole story last night with Reigns and Heyman, I think we have to touch on that.
Yeah. I do feel that I'm failing you all if I don't talk about that. Paul Heyman, absolutely an MVP, I thought, coming out of SmackDown. Just absolutely, do you think the Demon comes out? If there's... I am going to say this. If they are to play this perfectly, I think it makes so much sense if you're fighting the bloodline on your own. I think it makes so much sense. Like, this could be... Like, I don't think they will, but if Finn Balor really wants to be champion, I mean, you don't do it next week on SmackDown where their match will be, but... I mean, at a big pay-per-view... I have time for Demon Balor against Roman Reigns for that Universal Championship. And I don't think a lot of people would really hate it if it's told right.
I don't think you bring the Demon back to lose, though. We've discussed this a couple different times recently where everybody's talking that this Roman Reigns and The Rock is what they're building to at WrestleMania. But I don't think that's where you take the title off Roman. I don't think you give the title to The Rock in 2022. At this point. So who ends up beating Roman, and why not Demon Finn? Have Finn come out, have him have this match, have him get destroyed by the bloodline. Maybe you do another one at Extreme Rules where he tries to reach that next level without the demon persona. And then you move on to the Brock match for the show that we won't talk about and whatever else comes afterwards. And you get to that Rock match, Roman standing tall, having his great moment at the end of WrestleMania, or like a celebration after Raw that, I've been champion for a year and a half, and you have that Finn music and the smoke and the lights and everything, and Finn comes out in Demon to attack him, and they set up Demon versus Roman for Backlash.
Ooh, I'm going to one-up you, but before I do that, Astrid, please, I want to include you.
I mean, obviously, I wouldn't mind seeing the Demon Balor. I wouldn't do it on SmackDown. And I was thinking the same way as Cody. I was like, I wouldn't put Demon in the match just to have him lose. Just when he does it, he has to win that match. That has to be the one that he wins. But I don't think I see them doing it on SmackDown next week, though. But I would love to see it, though.
Imagine if we do get Roman Reigns against Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship. Imagine if they have Brock Lesnar interrupt this match next week on SmackDown, and it's just Finn Balor against Roman Reigns, and we set up Brock versus Roman for the championship. What happens if all people to take this match away from us, it is the Demon. And he takes back what he never really got, and that is a fair shot. And maybe this sets up, whether it's a Survivor Series, maybe it's a Rumble, a match between him and Roman to where this actually is. Yeah, but he's already said that he's not going to do it. He doesn't want to do it at Extreme Rules.
Well, he said he doesn't want to wait in line, so he's jumping the gun on SmackDown. Yeah. But WWE DQ finishes, interruptions, Usos, whatever. They're going to play this out now, especially if we're not getting Lesnar until the Saudi show.
I mean, I wouldn't be against seeing a match where you have a bloodline against Street Profits and Finn, winner takes both sets of titles. We haven't seen that in a long time
Not
on the main roster.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was covering my tail. Don't worry. I mean, the last time I remember seeing that with the WWE like brand and not through the NXT was probably the Inner House, where you had the dudes with attitude. It's going up against Owen, or I think Bulldog and Yoko were actually the match, but then somehow Owen lost the championships.
Owen was originally in the match, but Owen couldn't make the show, so they subbed in Bulldog, and then Owen shows up at the last minute and costs them the match, and then Jim Cornette gets the finish changed. Yeah. So.
Yeah. But so I mean, don't want to step on anybody's tails, but that is a throwback.
I love tornado tag matches, and I appreciate that AEW has been doing it a little bit more. WWE did the Thatcher Ciampa against
GYV.
Grizzled Young Veterans recently. I love that style of match a little bit more, and I wish we would see it a little bit more frequently, especially since so many tag matches do just fall apart into that chaos anyhow, that I feel like it should be used a little bit more in the tag team scene for either like Extreme Rules matches or street fights or Falls Count Anywhere or whatever other different term we want to give the same style of match. And putting it in a 6-man with the Bloodline and Street Profits and Finn, putting the 6 of them together in a match like that instead of a standard tag match at Extreme Rules with all 3 titles on the line. Excellent.
Thank you. But I don't know. Like I feel like SmackDown right now, you have this ability to. I feel like they're on a place where they can do no wrong. They're always going to do something that's good. Very rare are we talking negative about SmackDown. If we're talking negative with anything, it's the 3-hour debacle on Monday nights. But I mean, hence we didn't really talk much about Raw to begin with. So I mean, case said. But I do love the fact that there is always an option to almost everything going on SmackDown. Just when you think you're following the line, there's always something that's coming to kind of sidetrack you. And I think that's the best part about what SmackDown's doing in comparison to Raw. And then you're seeing this in AEW, but it's so much more with they're just focusing on specific acts to the point where they kind of make you forget about an act they have and then bring you back to it. Or, they just, pick somebody up from the free agency pool, I guess we'll call it. But I don't know. It's really interesting right now to be a fan. I think we actually had a good week. Astrid, you want to talk Naomi? Let's talk about Naomi before we head off. This will be the last thing we talk about before. Let's talk Naomi, because we saw her on SmackDown. It was a revelation. Talk Naomi, Astrid.
I was happy to see her, but disappointed how it was executed, to be honest. I mean, we've been waiting for Naomi to be announced as part of SmackDown for a little bit now. So I was surprised it was just a backstage segment, but I'm always hoping she joins the Bloodline. I think that would be a good way to highlight her, because we haven't had her been highlighted in quite a while now. But I was disappointed in the way they did it backstage, just like that. And like the way Sonya played it out, I didn't like that at all.
I'm going to disagree with you, Astrid. I think this is the perfect way to set up her joining the Bloodline. She shows up to SmackDown and she feels completely disrespected by the way Sonya introduced her, by the way Sonya treated her in that, and getting approached by Jimmy and Jay, getting approached by Roman, maybe even getting approached by Paul, and hey, these guys don't appreciate you. Come acknowledge your tribal chief, and he'll make sure you get in that title picture.
Ed?
I agree with both of them. Naomi is an ultra talented individual who's never really gotten the push and the things that she deserves. That being said, there's nothing she can't do, and her in the Bloodline seems like a no-brainer as far as it's coming up, and that shouldn't be anything more than just a week or two.
As we get a pop-in visit for Mom over there. Hello. But I think it's just just a refreshing thing to see her back on TV. I think that's the important thing. I love the fact that they're finally teasing potential female entrant into this bloodline storyline. I think that's something that needs to go noticed here because it's been a steady progression with this angle, and it only seems to be getting more detailed as we go. And because of that, it's going to be just amazing to see. Naomi makes so much sense simply because you got Tamina doing the tag with Natalia, which in itself makes a lot of sense, even though Tamina is a natural born member of this family. But we got Naomi, who is the wife of, I believe it's Jimmy.
Jimmy.
I guessed. I forget.
I can't tell them apart.
The other Uso.
I can tell them apart. I just forget which one has which name. And that's only like I just know Jay was the one that was being showcased all the time when Jimmy was out. But so yeah, it just seems like it makes sense. And to me, it goes back to that evolution where you got to get somebody for all the titles. Almost, you got your main title. I just think it's like, okay, now who's going to take the Intercontinental or the that mid card championship? I feel like that's what we're missing now. And then who's taking that women's? I don't know. I would have really loved to see when Natty was out. I would have loved to see Naomi and Tamina kind of just boom. There you go. We got this. But who knows? I don't know. Like, I'm intrigued. I'm very much intrigued. I think Naomi deserves. I would love to see her kind of get a little bit of a change with her demeanor. I wouldn't mind her kind of slowly losing the glow for now. Only to say I'm going to focus in on one color. Maybe that's red. Maybe that's the bloodline color. Maybe that's just it. I don't know. But then again, like
it has to be a slow build. I definitely think it has to be a slow build, especially since you just debuted that beautiful new Bloodline T-shirt that they had on yesterday.
That you're getting ready to erase Paul Heyman from, yep.
I mean, are you getting ready to, or are you just going to solidify him on there? Like, he seems kind of on edge and a little bit uncertain of stuff right now. I think he's kind of fearing what Roman is going to think going into this Lesnar situation, that maybe he feels like Roman's going to feel like he is going to betray him, so Roman's going to pull the trigger first, and he seems to be really bending that knee and being there for Roman and, like, doing everything as Roman's asking him. But yeah, I think the Naomi situation has to be a little bit of slow build. Maybe do it in such a situation where she tries to stand on her own. She tries to keep doing her thing. Maybe have Jimmy coming out occasionally and helping, like, without her realizing, helping her win matches or trying to, like, talk to her about, finding her edge, things like that. So just getting to that point where you end up with Roman being involved in it too and forcing that situation. So
yeah, and I think it's just really important to we got a question here actually. Before I talk, here's a question of the day. Sure. If you booked an 18-month storyline with wrestlers of any era, who would be your heel and babyface? I'd pick the Great Muta and Ricky Steamboat. I actually think this is the best way to end the show by doing this. Because I'm not saving this for brunch. We're taking it. We're going to grab it. I'm going to start with Cody.
Oh my God. I don't even know right off the top of my head right now. I think I'd want it to be Rey in there as the face. Rey Mysterio, just absolutely fantastic storyteller his entire career, all the way back to his early days in WCW. But if you're pushing Rey, you got to push it either one of two ways. You push it as him with somebody his own size, or you push it as him with somebody much, much larger than him. And just for the fun of it all, I'm going to say Rey and Andre.
Okay, Ed. You said you got it. What do you got?
HBK versus The Rock.
Astrid.
I'm like, I don't even know where to start. I guess one match I wouldn't say it's like from like different eras per se, but one match that I always wanted to see was HBK versus Eddie.
That's what I was thinking right after Ed, but I'll do one better. Kurt Angle and Bret Hart. Yeah.
What about Kurt and Owen?
Even better.
I
Even
mean,
better.
I'm not gonna lie. I really want to see Owen against Rey Mysterio. Actually, I want to see 1, 2, 3 Kid against Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, there's so many people that I would love to see like Owen have had a chance to wrestle with too. Like Owen and CM Punk, Owen and Daniel Bryan, Owen and Roddy Strong right now would be absolutely mind blowing.
Owen versus Cole.
Yeah.
Owen Hart versus Ilya Dragunov would be so fun. I don't know. I just, little brothers are always tougher anyway. I know this from experience. But
Going off of Cody's idea, what about
this is a
Ray,
great question.
What
Thank
about
you.
Ray versus Walter?
Yeah.
We might still get that.
Ray's dying.
Ray's dying.
Actually, here's one I got all the time for: Samoa Joe against Brock Lesnar, which I think WWE really dropped the ball on too. If we're going old school though, that like maybe like a match that we never got or whatever. Like I do like the Shawn versus Eddie. I would love to see William Regal in one of these because I don't think we appreciated William Regal enough as a professional wrestler when he was around. He was so good on so many other levels. I would love to see heel William Regal versus babyface Sami Zayn.
But if we're gonna do William Regal, can we just at least do Johnny Gargano?
Yes.
Yeah.
Prime William Regal against modern day Johnny Gargano.
Yep.
But
Because
you brought up Walter as well. What about a Mania Walter Taker match?
Oh, that sounds fantastic. I don't know if the Undertaker's body can handle it anymore.
Not anymore, but Prime Taker.
Oh yeah, Prime Taker. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know.
This question could do another hour and a half show. I think we should
Yeah.
leave it for now and pick it up again.
This is
later.
a great question. Also, I'm going to go with Ricky Steamboat against Johnny Gargano. And I want Johnny Gargano to be the heel.
Actually, no, I finally put it together. I'm going to come back around full circle where I was saying Ray is the babyface with Will Ospreay as his heel.
Not bad.
Yep.
I'm in for that.
All right. I mean, that was a great question. Totally redeemed yourself after embarrassing Astrid. So fantastic. Thank you. Football Scouting Report. Let's go around and just around the horn and where we can find everyone. Ed, we'll start with you. Where can we find you and what do you have coming up?
So you can find me on the NXT War Report Reacts with Astrid and JPJ. We'll have a returning JPJ, hopefully this
I hope.
It's always been fun having everybody else, but we miss JPJ. We want to have JPJ back. We need to get all his thoughts on TakeOver and everything else. Don't forget everybody else that we do have reacts for both NWA Empower tonight and NWA 73 tomorrow night. Please watch these shows. The NWA, as much as they failed doing clip shows the last couple of weeks, and it's been a running joke between Zach and Pluggo. That being said, these shows are vitally important for the future of this company, especially for the future of women's wrestling with this NWA Empower show. So many companies have come together to make this show important. I honestly don't care if you know where to find me on Twitter for this. Watch that show if you can. It's worth the money. These talents are so amazing, and Mickey James and company have put together an absolutely amazing show. Go and watch it tonight, and then come here and watch our reacts.
Cody.
Everything that Ed just said, I echo. As somebody who doesn't even watch NWA, this show has me absolutely, in complete anticipation and excitement, looking forward to it. You can find me on the War Report, usually for AEW on Wednesday nights. Unfortunately, I will be leaving that up to JPJ and Pluggo to keep their two beards entertained with somebody else in my spot for the next 2 weeks. But find me here Saturdays on Reacts, Sundays on Brunch, anywhere else during the week where I decide to pop in. Join me in the comments of all of our shows, usually to chat and antagonize the people on the stream. That's it.
I mean, Cody, I think you and I have to really do this as a tag team against Alex one of these days. I think that'd be really entertaining. I feel like if we're gonna be the the disturbers of the group, we're definitely on that page. Asher, we'll go to you. Where can we find you? Because I know you got a show to plug later tonight.
You can find me as Astrid Pizarro on Twitter and Astrid Pizarro 20 on Instagram. I will be joining Zach for the Empower Reacts tonight, so I'm really excited for this women's pay-per-view and definitely support it if you can. And yeah, I'll be in the World Report alongside Ed and JPJ for NXT on Tuesdays, and every now and then I'll be on the WrestlePlug broadcast, so if you can follow them on Twitter, so whenever I'll be with them too.
And you can definitely follow me at Chris Parrish on the Twitter, Chris Parrish on the Instagram, at Chris Parrish on the Twitch whenever I decide to start streaming, because, well, let's face it, I am just slow. But you know who's not slow, and that is RK Athletics, our beautiful sponsor, who we want to thank once again for just being there for us, really getting our asses in gear, we'll say. But if you want to follow them, make sure you give them a shout out at RK Athletics 1 throughout the board on social media. And for the crew here at Love Wrestling, I just want to say thank you to everyone who hopped in the comments, everyone who participated. Thank you so much for the questions, the comments. We very much appreciate it. Remember, this show is for the people in the audience as well. So we just want to say thank you. Make sure you check us out later tonight for our reaction with host Zach and Astrid. Appreciate that. For this time, we say thank you. And Astrid, if you're able, please take us home. Thank you, everyone.